Tammy Long Hayward. The arraignment calendar will start in a minute. I have a courtroom that is going to sign on for individuals who don't do Zoom or don't have the capacity to sign on from home. So we're just waiting to get the technology running so the courtroom can sign on and join us. And that should be another few minutes. Thank you for your patience.
Muted. No.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have technical assistance in the courtroom. So they appear to be getting it up and running. So it'll take another couple minutes. But once the courtroom, if there was no one in the courtroom, I would go forward. But there are actually people in the courtroom. So I want to make sure they're included. So it looks like we're going to be up and running in a minute.
How you doing, Your Honor? Can you hear me?
I can, and I can see you all also. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
we're all
Ben.
good.
Okay, I think we're good. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Judge Tammy Long Hayward. This is Clayton County State Court. This is courtroom 304. Ms. Bermudez, if you would sound to see if there's anyone assistance of a Spanish interpreter.
Buenos días. ¿Algunos de ustedes van a necesitar la asistencia de la intérprete de español?
Right. Does anyone on the call know of anyone who may need the assistance of a Spanish interpreter for the 10 a.m. calendar?
Yes, ma'am, for Maria Espino.
Okay. Is Ms. Espino on the call? Is this Ms. Espino?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Bermudez, if I could have you mirror me. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the criminal arraignment calendar for state court.
Damas y caballeros, esta es la lectura de cargos o la lista de lectura de cargos para el Tribunal Estatal.
This is the first opportunity your case has had to be before the trial court where it can be resolved through a trial or a plea.
Esta es la primera oportunidad que su caso tiene ante un juez del Tribunal de Litigios para que se declare a los cargos o para que lo lleve a juicio.
Everyone is entitled to have an attorney assist them if they choose.
Cada uno tiene el derecho de tener un abogado para que le ayude si así lo elige.
If you are here, then I will expect to hear at least one of these three pleas: guilty, not guilty, or no contest.
Si usted está acá, yo espero escuchar una de estas tres declaraciones. Culpable, no culpable o nulo.
If you enter a plea of not guilty, then you will have a trial at a later date.
Si usted se declara no culpable, entonces usted tendría un juicio en una fecha posterior.
At the trial, the state has the burden of proving the case against you beyond a reasonable doubt.
En ese juicio, el recargo cae sobre el Estado de probar su caso o el caso en su contra, más allá de una duda razonable.
You also have the right to remain silent and not offer any testimony or evidence against you.
También tiene el derecho de permanecer en silencio y de no presentar testimonios o pruebas en contra de sí mismo.
If you choose to go forward with a trial without an attorney,
si usted elige proceder con un juicio sin tener un abogado,
I have to treat you the same as I would someone who knows the rules of evidence and the rules of procedure.
Yo tengo que tratarlo de la misma forma que trataría una persona que conoce las reglas de pruebas y las reglas de los procedimientos.
And you may be at a disadvantage in trying to get evidence into the record of the court.
Usted podría estar en desventaja en tratar de someter pruebas en los récords de este tribunal.
If you go to trial,
Si usted va a juicio,
all you have to do really is appear for trial. You do not have to give evidence or testimony, but you may if you wish.
todo lo que usted tiene que hacer es comparecer para el juicio. Usted no tiene que presentar pruebas o dar testimonio. I'm sorry, Judge.
You may give evidence or testimony if you choose to.
Pero puede presentar pruebas y testimonios si usted así lo elige.
If you are convicted at trial, the maximum penalty could be up to 12 months in jail, a $5,000 fine, or both.
Si usted es condenado en el juicio, la pena máxima podría ser de hasta 12 meses en la cárcel, una multa de $5,000 o las dos cosas.
If you believe your conviction is a mistake, you can appeal it within 30 days of the verdict of the court.
Y si usted cree que su condena fue un error, usted puede apelarla durante los próximos 30 días después de la corte haber dado su fallo.
These are the rights that come with having a trial.
Estos son los derechos que vienen con tener un juicio.
If you enter a plea of guilty or no contest, you give up those rights that come with trial, but we will resolve your case today.
Declara culpable o nulo, usted renunciaría a los derechos que vienen con tener el derecho de un juicio, pero nosotros solucionaríamos su caso en el día de hoy.
If you enter a plea of guilty, it means that you believe you are guilty of the offense as charged.
Si usted se declara culpable, eso significa que usted cree que usted es culpable del delito como se le ha imputado.
Even if you disagree with all of the facts as presented by the state.
Hasta si usted no está de acuerdo con toda la determinación de hecho presentada por el Estado.
If you enter a plea of no contest, it means that you know the state has evidence that they could use against you in a trial.
Si usted se declara nulo, eso significa que usted sabe que el Estado tiene pruebas en su contra que podrían usar en un juicio.
And that evidence could result in a conviction against you.
Y que esas pruebas podrían resultar en una condena en su contra.
You want to resolve your case without entering a plea of guilty.
Usted quiere solucionar el caso sin declararse culpable.
So you are not going to contest that evidence.
O sea que usted no va a impugnar o a desafiar esas pruebas.
A no contest plea is helpful in many cases, particularly for traffic offenses.
Una declaración de nulo le podría ayudar, especialmente cuando tiene que ver con infracciones de tránsito.
It may help you avoid points on your license or the penalty of a suspension of your license.
Le podría ayudar a que no le pongan puntos a su licencia o la penalidad de que le suspendan su licencia.
If you are an under 21 driver, a NOLO may not work the same way for you because it's easier for you to gain points and suspension.
Y si usted es un chofer que es menor de 21 años, una declaración de NOLO puede ser que no funcione de la misma forma para usted porque es más fácil para usted acumular puntos en su licencia.
And if you have a commercial driver's license, entering a plea of guilty or NOLO or a conviction at trial may have a negative effect on your commercial driver's license.
Usted tiene una licencia comercial, declararse culpable o nulo podría afectar su licencia comercial.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call the calendar.
Damas y caballeros, yo voy a pasar la lista.
When I call your name, I'm going to speak with you or you and your attorney.
Cuando yo llame su nombre, yo voy a hablar con usted o con usted y su abogado.
Please mute your device until I'm speaking directly to you.
Por favor, apague su micrófono hasta que yo esté hablando con usted directamente.
And please put your full name on the screen. I see someone who has iPhone. If you touch the screen, the 3 dots next to your name should bring down a pull down menu with rename as one of the choices. And it should allow you to type in your name. If you can't get that, then tell me what your name is and I can do it for you. Okay, so while you're working on that, sir, I'm gonna go ahead and call the calendar, but if you need me to do it for you, just unmute and let me know, okay? Maria Eugenia Espino.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm representing Ms. Espino. We would like to ask for a 1-month continuance. Ms. Espino is resolving a immigration issue. She's very close to having it resolved. We could get it on the next calendar. Or in a
All
month
right.
from now.
Ms. Bermudez.
Su señoría, estamos pidiendo que nos den una prórroga porque la señorita Espino está tratando de solucionar un asunto migratorio y ella está a punto de solucionar.
Counsel, Ms. Espino's case will be continued to January 5th.
Thank you.
El caso de la señorita Espino va a ser aplazado hasta el día 5 de enero. Muchas
Ms.
gracias.
Espino, you're free to go at this time, ma'am.
Señorita Espino se puede retirar en estos momentos.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very
Una-
much.
De nada. All right. The next case on the calendar is Bruce Edward Gaines.
Your Honor, that's going to be a guilty plea. I'm
All right.
representing Mr. Gaines.
All right. All right. Let me check and make sure that there's no one else who needs Ms. Bermudez. Is there anyone else who needs the assistance of a Spanish interpreter?
¿Hay alguien más que vaya a necesitar la asistencia del intérprete en español?
All right. So Ms. Bermudez, I know there's other judges clamoring for your attention. I'm gonna release you at this time and I'll see you next hour, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am. All right. So Mr. Gaines, raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can put your hand down. You're before the court on driving on a suspended or revoked license, case 2020-CR02909 for Bruce Edward Gaines. You're represented by Ms. Hahn, and you are she's indicated that you're entering a plea of guilty. By doing so, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, subpoena witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf, to not incriminate yourself or present any testimony or evidence against yourself. And Mr. Gaines, if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, factual basis recommendation, please.
Yes, Your Honor. On December 27th, 2019, a road safety check was being performed on Castle Gate in Laboon Circle, Riverdale, Georgia, of Clayton County. At that time, the officer made contact with the blue Kia Rio being operated by Mr. Gaines. He requested his ID. At that point, he handed him a Georgia ID card.
I wasn't on Blue Kia.
Hold on, Mr. Gaines. Your attorney's gonna address anything that is a problem with your plea, okay?
Okay.
All right.
The officer contacted dispatch for a GCIC check and confirmed that the driver's license was suspended. At that time, Mr. Gaines was taken into custody. This is a first and 5. The state is recommending a $500 fine, 12 months to serve 1 day with the balance suspended, Your Honor. The state would be willing to give credit for time served.
All right. And this is a guilty plea to driving on a suspended or revoked license?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and he's not NOLO eligible.
He is, Your Honor, it's first and 5.
Mr. Gaines, would you like to use your NOLA? I'm sorry, we talked about that earlier. If we can use a NOLA, please.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, yeah, that'll save you the further suspension. That way if you have your license back, you won't have to serve another suspension. All right, so Mr. Gaines, I'm going to accept your plea of NOLO as opposed to a guilty. I'll sentence you to 12 months to serve 1 day credit for time served. Balance will be suspended as long as you have no new violations of the laws of the state of Georgia, and that you pay a fine in the amount of $500, which will be $737.50 with the surcharges. Now, sir, do you need additional time in which to pay? I generally give 30 days if you're not at the courthouse when you take your plea, but I can give you up to 60 days without putting you on probation, or I can put you on pay-only probation if you need a longer time.
I can do 60 days.
All right. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to pull up your chat function. Do you know how to use that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I'm going to send you a test chat. You're going to see a red number or dot pop up on your screen. You're going to click on that and reply, okay? But you're going to, when you see the name in blue, I want you to reply to Brenda Castaneda. And when you reply to Ms. Castaneda, send her your email address and make sure that you check it twice to make sure all of the numbers and letters are in the right place. And she's going to email you the information that you need, your sentencing sheet, the date by which your payment is due, and the ability to pay online or by phone.
Okay.
All right, so 1 second, let me go ahead and send that. There we go. It's gonna say test. All right, did you see something pop up in red?
No, ma'am. I see Judge Tammy Long Haywood to me.
Click on
test.
that.
Oh, it
That's
just
it.
disappeared. Okay, I see it. I see one.
Okay, click on the one.
Click chat.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so when you click on that, you see my name in blue?
No, ma'am. I just see test.
Okay,
I see send to everyone.
look above Ted where it says Judge Tammy Hayward. Is that in blue?
No, it's in black.
Okay, click on that.
Direct
Let's see.
message. It's in red. Direct message.
Okay. So click on my name. Do you see a list of names come down?
Hold on. I see a lot of names now.
Yes. So you're gonna click on Brenda, first name Brenda, last name Castaneda.
Okay.
Okay, and you're gonna send her your email address. So just type in your email address, check it a couple of times, and then send. Got it?
I'm doing it. I got it.
Right. So, Mr. Gaines, just make sure you pay on or before the 60th day. You can come into the courthouse to pay on the second floor, but if you want, you can pay online or by phone. If you fail to pay before the deadline, then an arrest warrant may issue, and we don't want that, okay?
Okay.
All right.
So you said I have 1 day to serve. I have to.
No, sir, that was credit for time served. You don't have to serve any time. You just have to pay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
You have any other questions?
No, man. I wasn't driving the Kia. I was in the truck.
Okay. Well, I did say if you felt like you were guilty of the offense, even if you didn't agree with all of what the state's facts were. Okay. All right. So thank you, sir. And you're free to go at this time. Just make sure you make that payment, okay?
I'm just waiting for an email from. I'm just waiting for an email.
Yeah, you're going to get an email probably tomorrow because we're going to have a long calendar today and Miss Brenda's going to be busy.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Porshida Charlencia Glass. Porshida Charlencia Glass.
Your Honor, she should be in the courtroom, but I'm representing her.
Okay,
And that's going to be a not guilty.
all right. Miss Glass, is Miss Glass in the courtroom, deputy? The courtroom is muted.
Ms. Glass is here, Your Honor.
She is here?
Yes.
All right, so you can excuse Miss Glass and tell her, wait, no, actually have her come up to the podium for me. Let me tell her myself. Miss Glass, so you've been charged with offenses that have, I'm sure, a bond condition, that you're not to go to a particular location, or you're not to have contact with a particular person or persons. Please make sure that you adhere to the bond conditions. If you have contact with someone that you're not supposed to, or if you go back to a location where you're not supposed to go, you could have your bond revoked and you spend the rest of the time in jail until your case is resolved. And you could also be charged with additional misdemeanors or a felony. So please be mindful that even if that person contacts you, you're to keep a record of it, and you can share that record of the contact with your attorney, but please do not respond in any way. Do you understand, ma'am? All right, you've entered a plea of not guilty. You're free to go at this time, and please make sure you keep in touch with your attorneys. If anything changes about your contact information, let them know first, and they'll let you know how to update the court so you don't miss a court date, okay? All right, thank you, ma'am. You're excused at this time. Xavier Cortez Grady. Mr. Grady is on video.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm representing Mr. Grady. He's going to plead guilty to count 1, and counts 2 to 4 will merge.
Okay. Mr. Grady, raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true? So, Mr. Grady, I can see that you don't have your mute on, but I can't hear you. Can you speak up for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I hear you now. All right, you can put your hand down. So, Mr. Grady, you're before the court on 2021 CR 03986. Xavier Cortez Grady, represented by Mr. Muhammad Kamani. You're entering a plea of guilty to count 1, battery, family violence, count 2, battery, count 3, simple battery, family violence, and count 4, simple battery will merge. By entering this plea, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, subpoena witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf, to not incriminate yourself or present any testimony or evidence against yourself. And if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things, Mr. Grady?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Factual basis and recommendation, Michelle VA.
Yes, Your Honor. On October 17th, 2020, an officer was called to 1608 Gardenwood Court in Clayton County. In reference to a domestic disturbance, the officer made contact with the defendant, Mr. Grady, as well as the victim, Paris Howard. Mr. Grady advised that nothing had happened. However, Ms. Howard advised there had been an argument and that Mr. Grady began to throw punches in the air during the altercation, and 2 of the punches struck her left arm. The officer did observe bruising and red marks on the rear of the victim's left bicep. At that point, Mr. Grady was taken into custody. The state is recommending 12 months to serve 3 days, credit for time served. The balance to be probated, family violent intervention program, no contact with the victim, a $600 fine, Your Honor, and 60 hours of community service.
Mr. Kamani?
Yes, Your Honor. If we can make the no contact to no violent or harassing contact, they have a child together.
That's not a reason.
All right, Your Honor, that's fine.
I'm just saying, Mr. Kamani, if I don't have Miss Howard telling me that she wants to have contact, then I generally don't do it. The more fights start with kids and the exchange of kids. We had a case here in, I believe, Henry County or Clayton County, where two people were killed during the exchange of custody. So yeah, that's when it's most volatile. I don't do that. So yes, Mr. Grady.
How do I, go by with, seeing my child? Do I call the court or do I go to my lawyer?
Okay, so Mr. Grady, do you have a visitation schedule set up by the Superior Court?
Oh, ma'am.
Okay, so the best thing to do in a situation where the parents aren't married and haven't established a custody and visitation arrangement is to go to the Superior Court and petition for legitimation, custody, or custody determination and visitation, meaning who has primary custody, who has secondary custody, and how visitation is exchanged. And then once you do that, you'll have a schedule that determines how visitation is to be done. And I always say that the best way to do visitation is at a neutral place, maybe the parking lot of the police department, because that way people are less inclined to act up. Especially if there have been prior incidents, but you can go through the Superior Court and establish all that, okay? Just because parents have a child together doesn't mean that no violent or harassing contact is a good idea, because generally those are when the issues start. Okay, so you can go through Superior Court and seek that. I'm going to accept your plea of guilty to count 1. Counts 2, 3, and 4 will merge. I'll sentence you to 12 months to serve 3 days. Credit for time served. Balance will be probated so that you can take a family violence intervention course. Now, Mr. Grady, I see that you're a truck driver. The family violence intervention course is 24 weeks. That's going to be difficult even if you worked locally. So, yes, sir.
I'm already enrolled. I enrolled in October. We do the Zoom call every Monday around 5 o'clock. So I've already enrolled in.
All right, good job, Mr. Grady. I appreciate that. And you're to have no contact with Miss Paris Howard. However, the only exception I will make to the no contact is that you can pay child support payments, or that you can pay through child support enforcement, but please make sure you pay child support, because otherwise we'll get an abandonment warrant coming through court, and we don't want that either. So the fine is $600. I don't know what the surcharge is on that, but it's going to be close to $800 total with the surcharges, and then 60 hours of community service. I'm going to put you in a breakout room with Mrs. Thomas. Mrs. Thomas is our probation expert, and she's going to do intake and get you set up for probation. She's also going to answer some questions if you have any. So please make sure if there's anything specific to what you need to know about your situation, that you ask Mrs. Thomas and before you get off the phone with her. The quickest way to get arrested is to not appear for probation reports. That's the quickest way to mess up. So please make sure you report for probation, and you can update everyone as to your progress on the other issues, but don't fail to report, okay?
Okay, is this reporting every month, every week? How does this work?
Mrs. Thomas will tell you all of that, because once I turn you over to probation, I let them handle that. I don't stir anybody else's Kool-Aid. All right.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So if you touch your screen, you should go into that breakout room with Mrs. Thomas. And once you do that, you'll be free to go.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Marvin Allen Hayes II.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm representing Mr. Hayes, and he's in the courtroom.
Mr. Hayes, come up to the podium for me. Is there a plea for Mr. Hayes?
Yes, Your Honor. On count 1, he's going to plead nolo.
Okay.
Count 2 is going to be guilty. Count 3 is going to be no pros, and count 4 is going to be a nolo.
All right. So, Mr. Hayes, raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true. All right, you can put your hand down, sir. You're before the court on State of Georgia versus Marvin Allen Hayes II, 2021 CR 05436 for 1 count of concealing the ID of a motor vehicle, no insurance, Count 3 is suspended registration, and count 4 is no tag, expired, or invalid tag. You're entering a plea of nolo to count 1, guilty to count 2. Count 3 will be no pros, and count 4 is a nolo plea. By doing so, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption and right to confront witnesses, to not incriminate yourself or present any testimony or evidence against yourself. And if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I hear you, but I think your picture is frozen. All right, recommendation, factual basis and recommendation, please.
Yes, Your Honor, on November 29th of 2020, on Highway 138 in Riverdale, Georgia, Clayton County, Mr. Hayes observed operating a motor vehicle with the Georgia tag of RIR 6242. Once the officer initiated contact with the vehicle and ran a registration check through NCIC and GCIC, the tag belonged to a Chevy Malibu. At that time, the officer made contact with Mr. Hayes, and he advised he had recently purchased the Saturn and took his old tag off and placed it on the new vehicle, Your Honor. The state is recommending for count 1, a $50 fine. For count 2, let me back off there, Your Honor. I apologize, go back, just one thing, Your Honor. Additionally, Mr. Hayes advised that he did not have insurance on the vehicle, and that was confirmed through a VIN check through NCIC, GCIC, Your Honor. So for count 2, it's the 2nd and 5, Your Honor, so it's a $400 fine. For count 3, the state is moving to no pros, and for count 1, it's a $100 fine, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, for count 4, what's count 4?
The no tag.
No, I meant what's the fine, because you gave me
Oh,
count 1.
You said I gave you.
Okay, so I have count 1 is $50.
Yes, Your Honor.
Count 2 is $400, and then you said count 1 again.
Oh, I apologize. Count 3 is no price. Count 4 is $100.
Okay, I didn't know if I missed something or if we were starting over. All right, so Mr. Hayes, the count 1 is a $50 fine. That'll be $83.25 with the surcharges. Count 2 is a $400 fine, which would be closer to 500 and something with the surcharges. I don't have my chart in front of me. Some of them I've memorized. That's not one of them. And count 4 is going to be a $100 fine. That's going to be $151.50 with the surcharges. Now, I can give you up to 60 days to pay if you need additional time without putting you on probation, or I can put you on 12 months pay only probation, where all you have to do is show up for your probation reports and pay. Once you've completed your payments, your probation will terminate, whether that's in the 1st month, the 3rd month, the 9th month, doesn't matter. As soon as you finish paying, your probation will terminate. So which, sir, would you prefer? Mr. Kalani, does your client need additional time?
60 days, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mr. Hayes, please be mindful that if you fail to pay, an arrest warrant may issue, okay? Deputy, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. So I just want to make sure I'm projecting to the courtroom so Mr. Hayes can hear me. Mr. Hayes, I'm going to ask you to, when you exit the courtroom, go down to the 2nd floor, right below where we are now. When you come back into the hallway through the double doors, go to your left and you'll see the traffic court window. They'll give you your paperwork, and that will have the date by which you need to make a payment. So if you go down to the 2nd floor, please don't leave the courthouse without getting your paperwork, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And you can also ask them about how to pay online or by phone, because you may want to pay online or by phone instead of coming all the way back down here, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right.
Okay. All right, Reginald DeAnthony Jones.
Your Honor, I'm representing Mr. Jones. He's going to enter into a plea. Count 3, seatbelt violation is going to be a NOLO, and count 4 is going to be no pros.
All right, where's Mr. Jones? Mr. Jones, raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true.
Yeah, ma'am.
All right, you can put your hand down. So, Mr. Jones, you're before the court on 2021 CR 04099, Reginald DeAnthony Jones, represented by Mr. Muhammad Kamani. You're entering a plea of NOLO to count 3 seatbelt violation, and marijuana 1 ounce or less, count 4 will be no pros. By entering the plea of NOLO, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to present testimony and evidence on your behalf, to not incriminate yourself. And if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty, no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things? Mr. Jones,
Ma'am.
do you understand all of the things I just said?
Yes.
All right. Factual basis and recommendation, please.
Yes, Your Honor. On May 22nd of 2020, on Jonesboro Road and Conley Road in Clayton County, Mr. Jones was observed in the passenger seat of a tan color Mercedes-Benz without wearing his seatbelt. When the officer made contact with the vehicle, Mr. Jones admitted that he did not have his seatbelt on. For count 1, the state is recommending a $15 fine, Your Honor.
All right, so Mr. Jones, the fine is $15, 15. There are no surcharges with that. Sir, do you need more than 30 days in which to pay?
No,
No,
ma'am.
30 days.
Okay, so I give 30 days because you're not at the courthouse, and so I don't want anybody breaking their neck to get to the courthouse to pay if they're not here for the date of the hearing. So, sir, I'm going to ask you to, do you know how to use the chat function?
The chat function.
Yes.
Your Honor, I have his email address.
Oh, okay. So, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kamani's going to going to pass on your email address to Miss Brenda Castaneda, and she's going to send you an email with your sentencing sheet, and it's going to have the date by which the payments need to be made. It's also going to give you information about how to pay online or by phone, okay?
Yeah, ma'am.
That way you don't have to come down to the courthouse, but there are no surcharges with that. So it's just going to be $15.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
right. And just make sure you wear your seatbelt, sir, because it could save a life.
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
he has a bench warrant that may be set aside.
Sure. If I'm going to request that the state provide a bench warrant set aside, and I'll sign that as soon as I get it. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. You're
All
free
right,
to
you're
go
welcome.
at this
Take care.
time. Okay. James Woodrow Malone.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mr. Malone. Mr. Malone, you're charged with driving on a suspended or revoked license. If you're not eligible to use a NOLO, that could result in a further suspension of your license. Sir, do you wish to represent yourself, or do you wish to have an attorney represent you?
Represent myself.
Okay, are you over the age of 21?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So may I have a recommendation for the driving on a suspended or revoked license and a determination of whether Mr. Malone is NOLO eligible?
Yes, Your Honor, this is the 2nd and 5. And so the recommendation will be $1,000 fine with 12 months to serve 10 days. The balance be probated, Your Honor.
Did he use his NOLO already?
Yes, Your Honor, in 2018.
Mr. Malone, so this is a 2nd and 5. The NOLO plea is not available, which means that you would have to serve a suspension upon making a plea in this case. Do you wish to enter a plea of guilty, sir? Also, let me just be transparent with you. The $1,000 fine is going to be $1,420 with the surcharges.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Mr. Malone, it is so much easier if you get your license straightened out, and it's a whole lot cheaper because the next time that this happens in 5 years, in a 5-year period of time, the fine goes up to $1,500. With the surcharges, it's going to be 2,000 something, and you actually have to spend 10 days in jail.
I actually have my license now. I did everything to get my license.
Okay, the issue is that because you don't have a NOLO available to you, your license will be suspended for a period of time going forward until that suspension is served.
So they suspended now?
Yes, sir. So upon conviction or plea in a driving on a suspended license, if it's generally people use their NOLO on the first one. It's very rare, but sometimes people will have a NOLO available if they have a second and 5, but you do not. You the only plea of guilt available to you is a not guilty or a guilty. So if you enter a guilty plea, it's going to result in a suspension of the license that you currently hold.
I'm not guilty.
I'm sorry?
Not guilty.
Okay, so sir, you're going to enter a plea of not guilty. You're going to have a trial for that. Do you wish to have a bench trial or a jury trial?
A jury trial.
Okay, so you'll be put on the jury trial calendar, sir, and we are moving pretty quickly. So you need to make sure that your information stays correct with the court. If you change your contact information in any way, you need to come down to the courthouse, 9151 Terra Boulevard, and update the state court clerk's office with all of your contact information, because the last thing you want is when your trial comes up and you get a court notice, the last thing you want is to have your notice go to the wrong address. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I gave it on the right address last time, and that's how I learned about the Zoom and registered the Zoom.
Okay, so please be careful. And Mr. Malone and everyone, I just say that a lot of times people get their licenses suspended because they get a citation and they miss court. So failure to appear is the #1 reason that people have a license suspension. And what you should do is if you get a citation, once you're pulled over on the side of the road, take the supercomputer that we have out of your pocket, take a picture of the citation, calendar it for about 10 to 15 days before your court date, and then put a reminder. That way you don't miss the court date, you don't lose the citation because you'll have it as a picture, and then you won't miss court, because that is generally how people get a suspended license. All right. So Mr. Malone, just be mindful that we'll be sending you a notice for trial. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Be careful. Travion Marquise Sheffield, David Gasly is the attorney. Travion, okay, Mr. Gasly and Mr. Sheffield are in the courtroom.
Judge, is the microphone working just all right?
All right, so audio in the courtroom is horrible. Sorry about that. So you may want to speak up a little bit louder. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Judge. Can you hear me okay?
Okay, so for Mr. Sheffield, this is a disorderly conduct case. Mr. Gasly, have you had an opportunity to consider to have a conversation with the state in this case?
Not the current solicitor in the courtroom, but I was able to speak with a previous solicitor. The offer was served 5 days. Mr. Sheffield served an extra 92 days in Fulton County on something unrelated, and then he was transferred over here and already served an extra 7 days. The previous solicitor was temporary. He was amenable to no crossing the case, but he didn't want to because he was just in this courtroom temporarily. I haven't had a chance to speak with any other permanent solicitor. We were hoping that to be the resolution, given he's already served 97 extra days incarceration, but I haven't had a chance to speak with the solicitor.
All right, Ms. Janvier, do you have anything on this case, or do you need to speak with Mr. Gasly separately?
I'm sorry, I could not hear him, Your Honor. What did you say?
He was explaining that Mr. Sheffield had been picked up in Fulton County. He spent, I think, 92 days in Fulton County, and then was transferred here where he spent an additional 7 days. Am I correct, Mr. Gasly?
Yes, Judge, she took a 12-month plea in Fulton, and then he served an extra 97 days after that 12-month plea, then was transferred here and served 7 days here, 6 days here. I believe the original recommendation was serve 5 days, and so William Tipton was the previous solicitor. He was open to no processing, but he did not because he was only here to
Okay.
I don't know if you can hear any of what I just said.
So Ms. Janvier, he said that Assistant Solicitor General Williams, who I think may have gone up to the DA's office, offered a credit for times, offered a no pros for the 7 days that he spent here, or served 5 days and he would no pros it. He served 7 days, but that's up to you. I don't know if you have notes in your file. I'm amenable to it if you are.
I don't have notes to that effect. I do see the time they did serve. Yeah, Your Honor, the state's willing to no pros.
All right, so Mr. Gasly, the state is willing to no pros. Mr. Sheffield, sir, you have spent enough time in these jails in Georgia, so I'm sure your mindset has changed by now, correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
You got a different thought process. You got a different way of handling situations. We clear?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, because I don't think you need to go back in orange your color. So we're gonna make sure that you move on from this. All right, sir?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, you're free to go at this time. Thank you, Mr. Gasly. All right, Emilio Nicholas Simon.
Hello?
Yes. Somebody said hello. I'm not sure who that was.
How you doing? I had a hard time at first too, but I'm on there. You have to do capital letters, HAYWARD.
Ms. Fairclough,
Huh?
are you here for a case
What's not
on
working?
Ms. Fairclough?
I'm sorry.
6.
Hello?
All right, Emilio Nicholas Simon.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Mr. Simon. Mr. Simon, how old are you, sir?
23.
Okay, you're over 21. So, sir, you're before the court on speeding 21 to 25 over. And sir, do you wish to have an attorney represent you, or are you going to represent yourself?
Represent myself.
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Janvier, do you have a recommendation for the speeding?
Yes, Your Honor, the state is willing to reduce the speed to 84 and a 65 with a $150 fine, Your Honor.
All right. So, Mr. Simon, the speed that you are 21 to 25 over is definitely one that would get you points. The state is willing to reduce the speed that gets reported to the Department of Driver Services in exchange for a guilty plea and a fine in the amount of $100. Is that something you wish to do, sir?
Yes. Sure.
All right. Mr. Simon. So, Mr. Simon, raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true.
Yes.
All right, you can put your hand down. And so, Mr. Simon, you have decided to represent yourself and you are over the age of 21. Is that correct?
Yeah. Correct.
All right. So you're before the court on 2021 CR 01740 for Emilio Nicholas Simon. And it's the amended speed of 84 in a 65. By entering this plea of guilty, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to present testimony and evidence, to not incriminate yourself. And if you are not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Actual basis and recommendation, please.
Yes, Your Honor, on September 21st of 2020, Mr. Simon was observed operating a motor vehicle on South I-675 and Anvil Block Road, Your Honor, in Clayton County. Operating the vehicle in excess of 84 miles per hour in a 65 mile per hour zone. State is recommending a fine of $150, Your Honor.
I thought it was $100.
No, I thought I said 150.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Simon, I've heard 100, but I think you're right. If I go back, it was.
At 100 too. Okay.
All right, so 150 is gonna be closer to $200, but you do get your speeding fines, your speeding reduced. Is that something you still wanna do? And I apologize because I misheard.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so now, sir, you're not at the courthouse, so I always give at least 30 days to pay. If you're not at the courthouse, I can give you up to 60 days to pay the fines and fees. Do you wish to have additional time?
No, 30 is fine for me.
Okay, so this is what you're gonna do. Do you know how to use the chat function?
Yeah, I think
Okay, go to the chat function. When you see the names at the top of the list, it should say everyone. When you click on that, it'll give you a pull down list and you'll see Brenda Castaneda. So you're looking for Brenda, click on her name and send her your email address. Make sure you check the letters and numbers and make sure everything is correct before you send it, okay?
Yeah. I'm looking for, you said
Brenda.
Brenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You found it?
Yeah, and then send her my email?
Yeah.
Okay.
And check your email tomorrow. And then she'll send you your sentencing sheet and she'll also send you information about how to pay online or by phone, okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, Mr. Simon, I'm gonna need you to slow way down, okay?
Yeah.
You're not trained to drive NASCAR. If you want to go, there's a track here in Atlanta. They will probably have training courses, but all you doing is gonna hurt yourself or somebody else and run up your insurance. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So I see your dad attorney over there nodding. And as a mom attorney, I understand. Yeah, you're gonna need to slow way down, sir. All right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and if you don't, you know who you're gonna see? Me. All your cases will come to me, just so you know, and I don't forget.
All right.
All right, take it easy. Don't give your dad no heart attack out here. All right, y'all are free to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Morgan Whitney White. Morgan Whitney White.
I'm here.
Okay, can I see you, please? And I'm gonna need you to speak up, Ms. White. I can barely hear you. Ladies and gentlemen who are here for the 11 o'clock calendar, we got you. This is my last case on the 10 o'clock calendar. I'll make an announcement in a moment and we'll begin calling your name. Okay, I see a baby. All right, Ms. White. So Ms. White, you're before the court on suspended registration and no tag or expired or invalid tag. So ma'am, do you need to have an attorney represent you or do you wish to represent yourself? Ms. White, can you hear me?
Yes, myself.
Okay. Are you over 21?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Raise your right hand. No, one moment. Ms. Janvier, do you have a recommendation for Ms. White?
Yes, Your Honor, for the suspended registration, the state is willing to no process, and for the $100 fine, Your Honor, for the no tag, a $100 fine.
Okay. All right. So Ms. White, the no tag is going to be $100 fine. You can enter a plea of guilty or is she NOLO eligible if she wished?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you could use a NOLO or you could enter a plea of guilty. I don't think that this is a points offense, but I could be wrong. Am I wrong, Ms. Janvier?
No, it's not, Your Honor.
Okay, so this is not a points offense, Ms. White. So sometimes people want to save their NOLOs to save them points on their license. If you entered a plea of guilty, you wouldn't get points on your license. So that's up to you whether you wish to use a guilty or a NOLO. Is this something that you wish to do today?
Yes.
All right, so you want to enter a plea of guilty and pay a fine in the amount of $100, which will be $150 with the surcharges. And I'll give you at a minimum 30 days to pay since you're not at the courthouse.
Okay. I can't have longer than 30 days.
Okay, 60 days, would that be good?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay, so raise your right hand for me. And I need you to speak up just a little bit, okay?
Okay.
All right. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true. You guys speak up for me, Ms. White. Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, there's something wrong with my phone.
Okay, I hear you now. All right, by entering a plea of guilty to count 2, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf or and not against yourself. And if you are not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things?
Yeah.
All right. The factual basis, please. We already have a recommendation.
Yes, Your Honor. On December 27th of 2020, Ms. White was observed operating a motor vehicle on Highway 85 and Orr Road in Clayton County, Georgia. That vehicle was observed with an invalid registration. Once the officer made contact with the vehicle, Ms. Morgan determined that her registration was suspended, Your Honor.
All right. Ma'am, the fine is $100. It'll be $150 with the surcharges. I'll give you 60 days in which to pay. The last thing I need, Ms. White, do you know how to use the chat function on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, I need you to chat your email address to Miss Brenda Castaneda. And once you do that, you'll be free to go, but please be mindful to check your email tomorrow or the next day and pay on or before the date that your sentencing sheet tells you. If you don't, then an arrest warrant may issue, okay? You can pay online or by phone, and the instructions for that should be in the email that you get.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Morgan, thank you. Sorry, Ms. White, thank you, okay? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the 10 a.m. calendar. We're on the 11 a.m. calendar now. I'm going to give you some information before we move forward. All right. All right, so for those of you who are here for the 11 a.m. calendar, this is the criminal arraignment calendar for courtroom 304, Clayton County State Court, and I'm Judge Tammy Long Hayward. An arraignment calendar is generally the first time that your case has appeared before the trial court, where it can be resolved through a trial, a plea, or administratively. For those of you who are here, everyone's entitled to have an attorney represent you. If you wish to have an attorney, but you don't have an attorney currently, or you don't have the funds for an attorney, please let me know at the time I call your name and I can appoint one to you. For trial, you should appear for trial because failure to appear could lead to an arrest. But once you are there, the state has the burden of proving the case against you beyond a reasonable doubt, and you have the right to remain silent and not offer any testimony or evidence against yourself. So if you wish to challenge the arguments made by the state, and if you wish to enter evidence and testimony on your behalf, you may do so, but you're not required to do so. I do advise that if you plan to represent yourself at trial, the court cannot treat you any differently than I treat someone who knows the rules of evidence or procedure. So you may be at a disadvantage in trying to get evidence entered into the record of the court. Please consider that if you are intending to represent yourself at trial. If you were convicted at trial, the maximum penalty could be up to 12 months in jail, a $5,000 fine, or both. But if you felt like your conviction was a mistake, you could appeal your case to a higher court within 30 days of the verdict of the court, and they may make a different decision. These are the rights that come with having a trial. If you wish to enter a plea of guilty, then or no contest, we will resolve your case today, even though you're giving up your right to have a trial and the rights that come with having a trial. By entering a plea of guilty, you believe you're guilty of the offense before the court, even if you're not in agreement with all of the facts presented by the state. If you're entering a plea of nolo, means that you are not contesting the evidence that the state has. You know that they have evidence that might result in a conviction against you, but you wish to resolve the case without entering a guilty plea and without contesting that evidence. A nolo plea works well for people. It has some benefits in particularly traffic offenses because it may help you avoid points on your license and it may help you avoid a suspension of your license. However, we'll discuss that with you on a case-by-case basis because you need to be nolo eligible, meaning you need to be eligible to use your nolo plea for the particular case before the court. Also, if you have a commercial driver's license, be mindful that a plea or a conviction could have a negative effect on your commercial driver's license, and it could affect your ability to earn a living. And if you're under 21, you have the ability to gain more points on your license that could result in a suspension. So please be mindful of that if you're going to enter a plea as an under 21 driver. You may want to let us know to see if there are any alternatives that the court can consider in your case. All right. The first person on the calendar is Jaslyn Zariah Berry. Jaslyn Berry.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. Here she is. She's unable to log in, and I told her to call on my FaceTime. I don't know. She's been trying and trying. And Jaslyn? Hello?
So, Ms. Fairclough,
Yes.
if you could, if you or someone in your office could kind of walk her through the process, I'm going to go on to the next person and we'll come back, okay?
Is there someone else who, because she knows it better than I do. I tried. She's said it's like her system's not working or something because she did exactly what I told her to do. She said she tried 6 or 7 times.
Okay.
I told her, could she give you a different device? She doesn't have a different device.
Okay, I'm not sure, other than having her come to the courthouse, she can come into the courtroom to participate. I'm not sure what else to tell her because I don't know what device she's working on and I don't know how to walk her through that.
Well, is it possible for me to waive her presence and plead not guilty and waive formal arraignment?
If you wish to.
Yes, because she's right here on the phone.
Okay, so I'm going to enter a waiver on her behalf. The Ms. Fairclough, on behalf of her client, is waiving her presence and entering a waiver of arraignment. And Ms. Fairclough, please advise your client that if she has a bond condition, advising her to not have contact with anyone, with a particular person or persons, that failure to adhere to the bond condition could result in revocation of the bond, being placed in jail until the case is resolved, or a additional misdemeanor or a felony.
Your Honor, that was one issue where she does have a child, 6 months old, with the co-defendant, and we were seeking nonviolent contact.
Not unless we have a hearing where both parties are present, so I can hear from the other side. And folk just having a child together, that's more volatile than anything. So I don't waive no contact provisions for that unless I'm able to assess the situation and better.
Of course. Okay, Your Honor. Well, that concludes my legal business. May I be excused?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, DeMarcus Cantrell Brown.
Your Honor, we were representing him, but we are going to be submitting a withdrawal to you. You should have it shortly.
All right, Mr. Brown, are you represented by somebody else?
Yeah. For the record, I am DeMarcus Bay, the implied surety for DeMarcus Cantrell Brown. And I would like to file a motion in the court for additional 30 days for me to seek counsel.
Okay, so Mr. Bay,
Yes.
AKA Marcus Cantrell Brown, so you're seeking a continuance to get new counsel?
Yes.
Okay, do you have someone in mind, sir?
I have, not right now, I'm seeking counsel.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm gonna give you a continuance for 30 days, or I'm sorry, till January 5th. But by that time, you need to have counsel on board when they come back so that they can talk to the state to determine if there's anything they can work out on your case, or if they need to get all of the information necessary for a trial, if that's what you choose to do. So by January 5th, I will expect that you will have counsel.
Well, I have paperwork on the docket that haven't been rebutted. I have affidavits of truth that haven't been rebutted.
Okay, sir, we don't do affidavits. People have to appear in person because there's a confrontation clause in the United States Constitution that says witnesses, you have the right to confront witnesses in person. So we don't do affidavits, okay? If you have witnesses that are going to present testimony or evidence on your behalf, then you have to have them come to court and be sworn in and testify at that time, okay? So we're not doing any dismissing and all of that stuff. No, sir. When you get your counsel, they'll be able to discuss it with the state, and then y'all can present whatever to the court.
And the accusing deputy must be present too, right?
No.
Okay.
So the people always say that, but here's the thing. The state gets to choose whatever witnesses they wish to bring, just like your side gets to choose whatever witnesses you wish to bring. You can't rely on them to bring the person that you want. So if you want to subpoena someone to appear for trial, then you need to subpoena them. You cannot rely on the state to bring your witness, okay?
Okay, I got you.
All right. Anything else?
And jurisdiction can be challenged at any time, right?
No, sir. Jurisdiction rests with this court because this is where the locus of the incident is.
Well,
Mr. Bay, let me just explain something to you. Mr. Bay, listen to me.
Okay.
I went to school for 3 years for this. That's full time. If I had gone part-time, it would have been 4 or 5 years. And I have been working since, oh Lord, I ain't gonna give my age, but I've been a lawyer and a judge for quite some time. I've been a judge for 10 years as of this year. A lot of times people come before me because they've learned stuff from other people, or they've gone online, or they've read it themselves. But I tell you, it doesn't work the way you think it works. And so there's a set of statutes, cases, procedures, all of those things that we have to learn. In fact, let me show you something.
Well, how do you have?
Wait. You see this book right here? This is just this year's edition of all the stuff that I have to be able to find to figure out what's going on in your case. This is just this year's edition. And I got a book like this that includes evidence and procedure. I got a whole wall of books. So when you come in here challenging jurisdiction and all of this stuff people have taught you, it's not books.
Can I show you my Black Law Dictionary?
No, sir. Because Black's Law, that's a dictionary. That's not the full case. You know, you come in with all of these ideas about how you think the law works, but every lawyer in here has done at least 3 years of law school and trainings, trials, all of those things. So you're not going to change the way we do things. So the best thing to do is to get an attorney who can talk to the state about your case, and then we can get this resolved. Your case is pretty simple. You got traffic offenses.
Well, I still want you to prove on the record that you have subject matter jurisdiction, personal jurisdiction.
I'm not proving anything on the record, sir. I wear the robe. They put me in this position. I've been here 10 years. If I didn't have subject matter jurisdiction, I wouldn't be here.
So you say it's not a difference between public and private for the record. There's no difference.
Sir, get an attorney.
Okay, all right. January 5th.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Mr. Bay / Brown, you've indicated that you wish to have an attorney, so I'm going to rely on the fact that you're going to have an attorney. Don't come back here with the same stuff, and I already told you it's not going to work.
So you're telling me United States codes don't work?
No, I'm telling you, you don't know them. So
I have it right here.
the United States codes don't work in Georgia because Georgia has its own code, OCGA.
So the meaning of driver is different in Georgia.
Yes, sir.
But according to 49
Mr. Bay, Mr. Bay, I'm not doing this with you. Get an attorney.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. You're free to go. We'll see you on January 5th at 11 a.m. All right, Eric Jamal Burnett. Eric Jamal Burnett. Third call for Eric Jamal Burnett.
Your Honor, the state requests a bench warrant bond forfeiture.
Bench warrant bond forfeiture will be granted. Donovan Tevez Carter. Donovan Tevez Carter. Donovan Tevez Carter.
State requests a bench warrant bond forfeiture, Your Honor.
Bench warrant bond forfeiture will be granted. Tamika Letitia Cook.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm representing Mr. Cook. That's going to be a not guilty plea.
All right, Ms. Cook.
Yes.
All right, so Ms. Cook, you have criminal trespass with damage. If there is a bond condition that instructs that you're not to go to a particular location or have contact with a particular person, then please make sure you adhere to those bond conditions. If you fail to do so, your bond can be revoked. You would be put in jail until such time as your case is resolved. And in addition to that, you could be charged with additional misdemeanors or a felony. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. So if there's individuals on that bond condition who make contact with you, you're to report that to your attorney and discuss that with them. But if you have contact with any of those people, then the consequences could be very dire for you. All right?
Okay.
All right. So, ma'am, you're free to go at this time. Eddie Franklin. Eddie Franklin.
Your Honor, that's my case as well. Mr. Franklin would like to plead nolo.
All right. Mr. Franklin, come on up for me, sir. Raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can put your hand down. Mr. Franklin, you're before the court on 2022 CR 05169 and you're represented by Ms. Hahn with the law firm of Lister, Holt and Dennis for possession of drug objects. You're entering a plea of nolo. By doing so, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, subpoena witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf, to not incriminate yourself or present any testimony or evidence against yourself. And if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things?
Sort of, Your Honor.
Okay, so let's slow it down and let me ask what it is I can clarify for you. 1 second. Let me see if I can hear you better. Okay, so Mr. Franklin, by entering a plea of nolo, it means that you're not going to have a trial. Did you understand that part? Okay, it means that you're not going to have the opportunity to present evidence and testimony like you would during a trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and it also means that if you were to be an immigrant to this country and not a United States citizen, that a plea of guilty or nolo could have a negative effect on your immigration status. Do you understand that part?
Yes, ma'am.
It also means that by entering a plea of nolo, that you're giving up the right to be presumed innocent, but because you've already said that you're not contesting the charges, okay? All right, did you need me to explain anything else to you? Okay, all right, and thank you for telling me, because sometimes I go so fast, and people, if you tell me to slow it down, it makes all the difference in the world, okay? All right, so, Ms. John VA, factual basis and recommendation, please.
Yes, Your Honor. On September 19th, 2022, police were on patrol in the area of 618 Somerset Drive in Clayton County, Georgia, where they made contact with Mr. Franklin. Once the officer made contact with Mr. Franklin, he advised he was going to pat him down for weapons. While patting him down, he discovered a small glass pipe. Mr. Franklin attempted to get the pipe and throw it away. At that point, Mr. Franklin was taken into custody. The state is recommending 12 months to serve 10 days. The balance be probated. A drug and alcohol evaluation, no drugs and alcohol, random screening and testing, Your Honor.
Ms. Hahn?
Yes, Your Honor. We would just ask that Mr. Franklin get credit for the time he served, and nothing further.
All right, so has Mr. Franklin served the 10 days?
I apologize. I'm just checking that, Your Honor. I didn't see it on there.
I believe so. He said he served 17. I'm checking it as well. I'm pulling it up.
Okay.
Yes, he served 10 days, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Franklin, I'm going to accept your plea, sir. I'll sentence you to 12 months to serve 10 days, but you'll receive credit for time served. The balance will be probated for you to take a substance abuse evaluation and any treatment that they may offer you, and no alcohol or illicit drugs during the next 12 months. And you're subject to random screens for alcohol or drugs, okay? All right, so Mr. Franklin, I'm gonna put you in a breakout room with Mrs. Thomas. So Mrs. Thomas is gonna appear on the screen and she's going to give you information about probation. Please ask her any questions that you might need, but I just wanna remind you that the quickest way to get rearrested or to get in trouble with the court is to not appear for probation. So you have to do your probation reports, okay? All right, so I'm gonna, if you hold on a second, I'm gonna put you in a breakout room with Mrs. Thomas. And when the jail comes back from the breakout room, we'll continue. Ms. Deputy, are there any other individuals in the courtroom in this calendar?
No, Your Honor.
No, this is the only person. Okay, so I'm gonna go, we're gonna continue to call of the calendar while Mr. Franklin is in with Mrs. Thomas. All right. All right, so the courtroom can go in with Mrs. Thomas on 6. All right, so here we go. All right, Nolan Elton Green.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
you're Mr. Green.
Yes.
All right, so Mr. Green, you're before the court for 2 counts of simple battery, and you're represented by the law firm of Lister Holton Dennis. Ms. Hahn or Mr. Kamani, is this your case?
It's my case, Your Honor.
All right, have you had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Green?
Yes, Your Honor. The state is going to no process this case.
All right, Ms. Janvier?
Yes, Your Honor, I did send that motion to you on yesterday.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Green, your case is gonna be dismissed. It's gonna be no pros, and you're free to go at this time, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can go, you can go, you're finished.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Alicia Simone Hale.
Here.
All right, so Ms. Hale, you're before the court for speeding 31 to 34 miles per hour over the limit. So Ms. Hale, I'm sure there's a mistake here. Having an ambulance at this speed.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Or not. Okay. All right, so Ms. Hale, how old are you, ma'am?
29.
Okay, do you wish to represent yourself or do you wish to have an attorney represent you?
I guess I can represent myself, I guess.
Okay. All right, so Ms. Janvier, what's the recommendation on this case?
$200 fine, Your Honor, and defensive driving course.
Is she NOLO eligible?
She is.
All right.
Question.
I'm
Quick
sorry.
question.
Sure, Ms. Hale.
Being that the incident happened in 2019, I had an incident, I want to say maybe a month after, and I was required to take a risk reduction class. Can I show my my proof of that for the driving course?
Okay, was it a driving improvement course, or because risk reduction is different?
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I was just, just asking.
Okay, so is this something you're interested in doing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the difference between a guilty and a NOLO is the NOLO may save you points on your license. The guilty, you'll definitely get points on your license. So did you wish to use your NOLO?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And so raise your right hand for me. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true.
I do.
All right. And Ms. Hale, you're representing yourself. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You're entering a plea of NOLO. By doing so, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, subpoena witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf, not incriminate yourself or present any testimony or evidence against yourself. And if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. You understand all of these things, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Factual basis. And I have the recommendation. So factual basis, Ms. Janvier.
Yes, Your Honor. On July 19th, 2020, Ms. Hill was observed operating a motor vehicle on I-675 and Double Bridge Road in Clayton County. She was traveling at a speed of 96 miles per hour in a 65 mile per hour zone, Your Honor.
All right. All right. So, ma'am, I'll accept your plea of NOLO. I'll sentence you to pay a fine in the amount of $200. It's going to be $298 with the surcharges, and you're going to take a driver improvement course. Now, I can put you on,
right?
I can put you on probation if you need more than 60 days to do these things, or I can give you 60 days. But if you fail to do it within the 60-day period, arrest warrant may issue. So which do you wish to do?
I'll take the 60 days. That's
all
fine.
right. So let me tell you about the driver improvement course. I don't want you to Google trying to find one. I want you to go to the Georgia State Department of Driver Services. That is the website that handles your driving privilege, all of that. So wherever you would go to get your driver's license, that's where I want you to go. When you go to the website, they have a pull down menu that'll give you driver improvement courses that are located near you. So you can check for one near your work or near your home, whichever is going to be easiest for you to do. They're going to give you a form once you complete it that's recognized by the court. Once you turn that form into probation and pay the fines and fees, does the state have any objection to TLC?
No, Your Honor.
All right. So the quicker you do the driver improvement course and you pay the fines and fees, the quicker you will be off probation. Okay. So as soon as you complete those things, the soon as, oh no, you have 60 days. So as soon as you complete those things, you'll be done. All right. So
yes,
you have
ma'am.
60 days to do them, but you want to do them before then. But please don't just Google. You want to go to the driver improvement course that's promoted by the Department of Driver Services. Okay.
Okay.
Did you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
All right. The last thing I need you to do is, do you know how to use the chat function?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I need you to send your email address to Miss Brenda Castaneda. So when you go to the chat function, specifically choose Miss Brenda's name and send your email address. And she's going to email you your sentencing sheet with instructions on how to pay online or by phone also. But you'll present your your improvement course. You'll present that information to the Solicitor General's office, which is on the 3rd floor of this building. Okay.
Okay.
So you want the Clayton County Solicitor General's office. You can mail it into them.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Just
Yes, ma'am.
keep a copy though.
I got you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, you're free to go at this time. David Safel.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so Mr. Safel, you're before the court on driving on a suspended or revoked license, no license, and too fast for conditions. You're unrepresented at this time. Do you need to have an attorney represent you, or do you wish to represent yourself?
I can represent myself for now.
All right, how old are you, sir?
25.
Okay, so you're over 21. So do I have a recommendation from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. The driving with a suspended license is the second and 5, so the fine would be $1,000. For the no license, that would be no price, and the too fast for conditions would be $1,000.
That's.
I'm sorry, $100. Too
Oh,
fast
I'm
for
ready.
conditions, $100.
Well, that's more than the speeding.
You was about to break the record, Mr.
I
Safel.
was gonna be up there at that courthouse.
You were gonna break the record, sir, because that would have been the
I don't know how
highest
fast that
fines and
was.
fees. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm gonna need you to slow way down. Okay, so Mr. Safel, the driving on a suspended or revoked license, every time you get one of those within a 5-year period, the fines, fees, and penalties zoom up. So the next one will be 10 days mandatory jail time and a $1,500 fine. So I'm gonna need you to get your license straight and keep it straight.
I have a letter from the Department of Driver Services that said I didn't have any active warrants or any active suspensions before I got pulled over. And the only reason why the officer took me to jail is because I didn't have that piece of paper on me. And I was actually on the way to go get my driver's license.
Do you have the piece of paper?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, Ms. Janvier, can he submit that to you? Okay, so Mr. Safel, what I'm going to ask you to do is submit that paperwork to the state, because that's going to save you a lot of money, sir.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I'm out on bond right now, so I don't have any more money to give the state of Georgia or Clayton
No,
County.
you don't. No, and I'm gonna need you to stop giving us your money. I'm gonna need you to,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna need you to like it ain't coming to me personally, so I'm gonna need you to stop paying money for stuff you don't need to be paying money for. We clear? All
Yes,
right, so
ma'am.
this is what I'm gonna ask you to do. I'm gonna continue your case to January 5th, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
You listening? So
Yes, ma'am.
before then, I need you to give that paperwork to the state. Ms. Janvier, can you chat him your email address so that he can email it to you?
Okay, and so it's 2 pieces of paper. It's
Okay. You know how to take a picture and email it?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I'm
All
familiar
right.
with that.
Send both of them.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. And so I have some questions because
Sure. Go ahead.
all right. So first, what will that prove if I submit it? Like,
Well, if you did not have an active suspension on the date that you were given the citation, then that case fails. They can't move forward with that. You have to have had an active suspension on the date that the officer cited you, okay? If the Department of Driver Services has given you a letter saying that that may have been incorrect in the system, or whatever the officer saw was not what they had in their records, then that may assist you with getting rid of that count, which would keep you from having to pay $1,420
okay.
and serve a further suspension of your license.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So that's what I'm saying. It's worth it to go ahead and send that information to Ms. Janvier.
Yes,
Did
ma'am.
you have another question?
Yes, ma'am. So let's say in the event that it's an error in their system and they just accidentally mailed me this letter and I had a suspension that I didn't know about, right?
Well, what we
to-
go by is what the Department of Driver Services says. If they sent
Okay.
you a letter saying on that date your license was not suspended, that's what they'll go by.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
And then
So-
do I have a NOLO plea available just in the event of whatever?
Miss Janvier, does he have
Yes, the last one was a guilty, so he does have a no.
Yes, sir, you do. So it wouldn't further suspend if you've gotten your license back.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So Miss Janvier, did you send him your email address?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
write that down, because as soon as you get off the Zoom, you're not gonna be able to have access to it. All right,
Okay.
so I'm gonna continue to January 5th at 11 o'clock, Mr. Safel. Please
Yes, ma'am.
make sure you get
And
that
will I get
information.
something? Will I get something in writing updating that that court date so I can give it to the bondsman?
You should, but you may not. But just make a note of it and tell them that the court continued it.
To January 6th.
January 5th.
Yeah,
Oh, you about to mess up already.
So I was gonna be a day late. I was gonna be back here.
Oh, at a day late and $1,000 short, Mr. Safel.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
All right, so January 5th at 11 a.m., okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Mr. Leor Shatreat. I hope I didn't mess up your last name. Probably did. Can you unmute for me?
Yeah, no, it's all good. That's the right name.
Okay, so you have a driving on a distracted driving charge. Do you have a hands-free device, or is your car Bluetooth enabled?
Yeah.
Can you show us your hands-free device?
1 second. I mean, like this?
Oh, Miss Janvier. Okay, so sir, that's gonna be a no pros. Your case will be dismissed and you're free to go, okay?
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, make sure you use that hands-free device. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. All right, and Daniel, okay, someone's at the podium in the courtroom. Who's that?
It's Deputy Harris. So,
Oh, Deputy, okay. I'm sorry, it's not here.
It's okay. Was Mr. Franklin clear to go? He just finished speaking with probation.
Yes.
Okay. And with that being said, am I dismissed until the 1:30 calendar, or do you want me to stand by in the courtroom until then?
Yeah, no, you're good till the 1:30.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Daniel Allen Smith, represented by Laura Wester. So, Mr. Smith, I see you. Miss Val, was this the person that you excused for today? Mr. Smith?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any indication where your lawyer is?
She filed she put in a withdrawal she put in a withdrawal into the court. I'm not sure what happened. I'm really not sure. She emailed me a withdrawal letter to withdraw from the case.
A withdrawal or a continuance?
A withdrawal. And,
okay.
She withdraws my lawyer.
Okay, do you need me to appoint an attorney for you?
What is this? This is for a speeding ticket charge, right?
Yes, it was speeding 16 to 20 over. If you have a NOLO plea available to you, then you can enter a plea without having points on your license. And if you wish to hear from the state what they want to offer in this case, then you can do that if you chose to represent yourself. Otherwise,
do I have a NOLO plea?
Ms. Janvier, can you check for me?
It appears that he does, Your Honor. Just want to double check the last time this report was printed. Yeah, it appears he does, Your Honor.
Okay, so you do have a NOLO, or is the state willing to reduce to 14 over?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Mr. Smith wiping his brow. Look at that lawyering, non-lawyering. Okay, a couple of things. Mr. Smith, are you over 21?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, raise your right hand for me. Solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so you can put your hand down. Now, you're before the court on 2020 CR 06602. Daniel Allen Smith, you were represented by Laura Wester. You have indicated to the court that Ms. Wester has chosen to withdraw from your case. Are you seeking to have Ms. Wester removed from your case so you can proceed at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you wish to represent yourself?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you are over the age of 21?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so in your case, you're charged with an offense of speeding 16 to 20 over. The state is willing to reduce that speed to what speed, Ms. Janvier?
59 and the 45.
Okay, it's 59 and a 45. If you entered that, points would not attach to your license. Do you wish to enter a guilty plea and save your NOLO, or do you wish to enter a NOLO plea?
I'm going to enter the NOLO plea.
Okay. All right. All right. So by doing so, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, subpoena witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf, to not incriminate yourself or present any testimony or evidence against yourself. And if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things, sir?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
All right. Factual basis and recommendation, please.
Yes, Your Honor. On April 24th of 2020, Mr. Smith was observed operating a motor vehicle on Highway 85 and Allen Drive in Clayton County, Georgia, traveling 59 and 45, Your Honor. State is recommending $800 fine.
Right, sir. The fine will be $100, $151.50 with the surcharges, and you're away from the courthouse. So I always give 30 days. If you're not at the courthouse, if you need 60 days, I can give you that also.
I'll take the 60-day time span.
Right. Yes. So, sir, just don't forget, because the holidays, people get their minds on.
Oh, yes, trust me.
Foolishness, and they'll forget. So this is what
money
I
go
want
left and go right.
Right.
Yeah, I understand.
So do you know how to use the chat function?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you will go to your chat function and select Miss Brenda Castaneda and send her your email address. Make sure you check that all the numbers and letters are in the right place before you send it. She's gonna send back your sentencing sheet that tells you the date by which it has to be paid, and also the ability to pay online or by phone. Instructions should be included.
Okay. All right, Your Honor. I just sent her that email address.
All right. So, Mr. Smith, I'm gonna need you to take your foot out of the gas tank, sir.
Yeah. Trust me.
All right.
I will.
Take care, sir. And check tomorrow for your email. Check your email tomorrow for that, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. And happy holidays.
You too. Corbin Alexander Williams. Corbin Alexander Williams.
Good morning, Judge. We received a waiver of arraignment on this case on November 28th by a Danielle Wash.
Okay, is that W-A-S-H?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
All right. So, Lister, Holton, Dennis, I assume you all will be submitting a dismissal,
Yes.
removal? Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So that concludes the 11 a.m. hearing. Is there anybody else who needs to be addressed before the 1:30? All right. We have Mrs. Val has generously provided us quite a nice break. So everybody hydrate, get some good food, and we'll see you back here at 1:30. Thank you.